Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You have found yourself this afternoon in the March 3rd, 2025 Rowan County Commission meeting. We are honored that you have joined us today. We hope that you find your time profitable, and so we're just grateful that you're here. We begin our meetings the same way every week, and we're going to do a couple things. We're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance, but we're also going to have something called a solemnizing prayer. You hear me explain this all the time. It is a prayer that's for us. It's not for you. We take very seriously what we do up here. We seek wisdom in making decisions here because we're trying to make decisions that's in the best interest of everyone in Rowan County, and we believe that wisdom's even better than knowledge. So we're going to have our chaplain come forward, Chaplain Taylor. We're grateful he's here. He's going to lead us in a solemnizing prayer. So commissioners, if you'll join me, we'll get started.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank for this day. You bless us with you, Lord. We thank for our county commissioners, Lord, and we thank for the time and preparation they made for this meeting tonight and all their work they do for Rowan County, Lord. We do ask you to give them the wisdom they need for this meeting today and the days ahead. We place them in your hands tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chaplain Taylor. We got a full house here almost tonight. Good to see everybody.
But they're all carrying guns.
That's a good thing. All right, I've got 3 items to add. These can be added to the consent agenda. One is the NCDAC contract award notification, and then the second Rowan Wild certification statement. Also, our Representative Harry Warren asked me if we'd consider a resolution naming Elizabeth Dole Highway. So those 3, if you don't mind, we'll add as items A, B, AC, and AD to the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve that.
So moved. Second.
A second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any other additions or deletions that you know of? All right, then do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, do we have any? Did we already approve consent?
Well, I thought we did with changes. Okay.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone for public comment? Miss Jane Steinberg, my favorite people. Jane, come on forward for public comment. Come on up to the microphone here. Good to see you, Miss Jane.
My comments have to do with the property that is being built up all over the county and who has say-so about the roads, whether it's the city or the county, Sells Road, Old Knoxville Road, China Grove area. I mean, do the towns have say-so, or is it strictly county? Or is the city going to take this land into the city? Are they going to, can't think of the word anyway, because where I live, Sells Road's on one side, Old Knox Road's on the other side. And we feel like that we're getting squeezed in, and the traffic is so bad now anyway, and it's going to get worse. And so I'm just trying to find out who has jurisdiction over this.
Jane, you and I can talk.
Okay.
We can, offline, we can do that, okay?
You coming out tomorrow?
Maybe. Maybe.
Thank you.
We'll see. You're very welcome. Anyone else?
We're not supposed to respond, but let me just say, generally, the county commissioners and the county does not have much to do with roads. And that'll be his conversation with her in more detail, I'm sure, because we know Miss Jane. She has questions, and we're glad to answer. But that's the short answer to her question.
All right, thank you, Jane. All right, we'll move on to our regular item. Item A, discussion regarding appointment of interim commissioner. Something we've been talking about for a little while.
I hadn't been talking about it.
So one of the first meetings that we had, as you guys know, Commissioner Caskey, who we all love and respect, has been deployed to Kuwait. He'll be gone for some time. So Commissioner Caskey actually, what do we call it technically, Mr. Manager? He gave his,
I'm looking.
he's looking. He didn't resign, but he took a leave of absence. Is that what it was?
Yep.
Jay?
Yep.
Leave of absence. Been talking with Mike, and we believe that he'll be back the first meeting in September. So we've been operating, the four of us. One of the first meetings we had without Mike here, we had two of our commissioners that ended up sick. So we had folks that had flown in from Florida for some of the items that we were working on the agenda, some developers. So thankfully, we got a hold of Commissioner Pierce, and the plan was he was going to stand outside the door so that we could call a quorum so that we could really move everything to the next meeting. And thankfully, Commissioner Pierce said, let's just push through it. So he sat down and we got the meeting done. But there's a potential at times for us to not be able to operate, especially at meetings. So began to think about, and it has been an issue. The question has been, would we replace Mike? And so that's something that we've been considering for some time. So as chairman, who runs the meetings and feels a certain amount of responsibility for making sure that the county continues to run and that we're hearing items on agendas so that we can continue to do the work of the county. Started thinking about replacing Mike on a temporary basis, and have reached out to folks, had conversations with some folks, and brought an individual to the commissioners to be able to meet with and speak with. And so tonight I'm going to make a motion to appoint an interim commissioner. So I'd like to introduce that, and then we'll vote on that. And so I'd like to introduce to the community Daniel Rick Lancaster. Our nominee has over 11 years' experience in law enforcement and leadership. He's worked directly with our community to ensure safety, build strong relationships, and address the needs of residents. Currently a basic law enforcement training coordinator at Rowan Community College, where he works to prepare future law enforcement officers and helping to ensure they are well equipped to serve and protect their citizens. His time as a police sergeant in Salisbury, his father further honed his skills in supervising teams, managing resources, leading efforts to reduce crime and enhance community engagement. As an undercover narcotics officer with the State Bureau of Investigation, he gained invaluable experience in navigating complex and often high-pressure situations that required discretion, strategic thinking, and deep understanding of community dynamics. He was tasked with infiltrating criminal networks, gathering intelligence, and conducting investigations that ultimately dismantled drug trafficking operations and reduced the impact of narcotics on local neighborhoods. This role sharpened his ability to build trust, foster relationships, and maintain a calm and calculated approach under challenging circumstances. These skills are directly transferable to a community leadership role where the ability to understand diverse perspectives, work collaboratively with stakeholders, and make informed decisions is essential. His background in undercover operations has reinforced his commitment to creating safe, thriving communities. He will apply these lessons to address community concerns, enhance public safety, and strengthen local partnerships. County Commissioner. He also brings extensive experience as a small business owner, nearly 20 years, provided him with a deep understanding of the challenges and opportunities that our local businesses face, along with a strong appreciation for the importance of a thriving local economy. Additionally, his role as a board member of Rowan Helping Ministries has reinforced his commitment to community service, fundraising, and supporting programs that directly benefit our residents. County Commissioner, he will continue to strengthen our county by focusing on public safety, economic development, improving services for all residents. Leadership approach is one that values collaboration, transparency, and a strong focus on community involvement. He believes that by working together, we can ensure that Rowan County remains a place where families, businesses, and individuals can thrive. The nominee looks forward to the opportunity to serve the people of Rowan County, listen to their concerns, and work alongside his fellow commissioners and community leaders to address the challenges and opportunities we all face. Daniel's been married to his lovely wife, Michelle, for 15 years, and they have 3 wonderful children: Doc, who is 13, Kirsten, who is 11, and Aubrey, who is 8. Daniel is joined today by his father, Charles Lancaster. Mr. Lancaster, would you stand? Welcome, sir. He lives here in Salisbury, and his mother-in-law and father-in-law, Betsy and Brian Farmer. Would you two stand, please? Ladies and gentlemen, fellow commissioners, I'd like to present as a motion that we nominate and appoint Daniel Rick Lancaster as an interim county commissioner until such time as Mike Caskey returns to his post. Make that in the form of a motion. Second. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I don't agree with this at all. Nothing against the candidate. But we have not discussed anything about having an interim commissioner. I have people reach out to me today that I feel like are more qualified, and we haven't given them an opportunity to present their case. And I think we owe it to the citizens of Rowan County to vet all of these people out if we're going to make them in a position to vote on a budget which possibly could raise taxes and could cut services depending on what kind of money we're going to have, and to do the best we can for our community. And I just don't think this abbreviated discussion is the way to go about it. Like I said, nothing against Daniel. Don't know the guy. Might be the best guy in the world, but he's not qualified. Sounds like to me he needs to run for sheriff with all the legal stuff that he knows how to do. And nothing against you, Travis, but I just don't think we've done our job to put together the best candidate to take care of this county for the next 6 months. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Respect your opinion. Anyone else? All right, we have a motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
All right. All right, motion carries. And if Daniel would come forward, where do you want them, Sarah? We'll come to the center of the floor here, and I've been elected 3 times, and so 3 times I've been sworn in. I've never been able to swear anyone, never been asked to. But it is my distinct privilege and honor this afternoon to be the guy that gets to swear in Daniel Lancaster. So Daniel, I don't know who you're going to have hold the Bible for you. Is she? There she is. She wasn't sitting on the same row. I'm sorry. If you guys will come forward and whoever else you would like, then we'll do our thing. Yeah. Hello, test. Daniel, if you'll repeat after me. I, Daniel Lancaster,
I, Daniel Lancaster,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will support the laws of the Constitution and the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities
and authorities
which are or may be established
which are or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend
maintain, and defend
the Constitution and laws of said state,
the Constitution and laws of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office as County Commissioner.
the duties of my office of County Commissioner.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And I'll sign. All right, and one more thing. Supposing they'll get you a pen, but in the meantime, I've got my first pen here. So, Michelle, if you'll pin that on his left lapel. Okay, that was nerve-wracking. high drama, and I appreciate our commission, appreciate Mr. Caskey, and we continue to pray for him. Pierce, I appreciate you and your willingness to give your honest and open opinion. I respect that. Daniel, anything you'd like to say as we get started?
I just appreciate the opportunity. I plan to make sure I'm open here, plan to serve the county in the best way I can, and the best way I see fit. So thank you for this opportunity.
Judy, anything? Words of encouragement, advice for Daniel?
Well, no, I met Daniel last week and sort of did an interview with him, and I just have to tell you, folks, that I believe he's going to do a fabulous job as one of your commissioners. He's just got such an incredible, well-rounded background that, yeah, and he will listen. And I think that's the most important thing of being a commissioner.
No, welcome, Daniel. We look forward to working with you and spoken with you a couple of times. We know that you're going to do a good job.
I think I've said all I want to say.
All right, let's move on. All right, Nick, are you up first? Rowan Community Center grand opening discussion. Welcome, Nick.
I want to thank you for giving us this time to the Commissioners, Chairman.
Won't you introduce this young lady that's with you?
So she will be the star of the show. This is Megan Simpson. She is the Event Center Manager at the Rowan Community Center. We have some exciting news that we want to share. She'll be brief, and if you have any questions, just let us know.
Hello, my name is Megan Simpson. I'm the Event Center Manager over at the Rowan Community Center. So I appreciate you all taking the time for us to talk to you about something very exciting. So thank you, Chairman and Commissioners and Mr. Church. So first up, we've got our ribbon cutting that we would like to host on March 20th. It would be at 8:30 a.m. after the Partners Powers and Partnership Breakfast that we will have that morning. So we'll have the ribbon cutting on that morning at 8:30 after the breakfast, which leads us into an exciting second portion, which would be on Saturday, March 29th. We would be looking to host the Rowan County Event Center grand opening. That would be Saturday, March 29th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We would have light refreshments, light music, some county services available. So we would have staff and tables set up for anyone that wants to drop in. We will also have staff on site doing tours of the facility. And so we would have a couple of, if it wants to work. There we go. So we do have some requests for board actions for a request for a motion. First being that our scheduled reservations can begin officially April 1st. So that way we will have the ribbon cutting and the grand opening. And then we would follow with the April 1st scheduling for the reservations. Also, too, that we would have the effective date for all of the fees that would be implemented for the Rowan County Event Center, as well as the Cardinal Room, which is formerly the J.C. Penney Event Center, that those would be in effect as well on April the 1st. And then any current rentals that are booked at the Cardinal Room, we would be looking for a motion that those would be honored at the previous fee amount that they booked them in if they chose to continue with their booking. And then request for a motion for approval to give away one free rental at the Rowan County grand opening, and that would be in a prize drawing on March 29th.
Can you specify that the free, or I'll specify the request, the free rental is for the most expensive option?
So ours that we would be proposing would be for the Freedom Hall, which is the 4 meeting rooms that you can have wide open as the one where our Commissioners Retreat was located, and the Barrel Hall. So yeah, so it would be at the brand new facility in the large meeting room.
And what's the dollar value of,
So that one with the large meeting room, which is all of Freedom Hall, and the Barrel Hall is $2,200 value.
so the board's being asked, in the second request to authorize staff to give a $2,200 value prize away as a free drawing.
Correct, yes. That would be during the grand opening.
But you have to be there to
Submit, yes, you would have
register.
to commit, yeah.
Thank
to
you,
register.
whoever helped me.
Nick.
Are there going to be any more motions than these two?
Just those that are here on the slide.
You done?
I am done.
Okay. I mean, before we tackled the motions, I wanted to see if you had more for us.
So for today, that's just the only request that we have is the March 20th ribbon cutting and the March 29th grand opening. The other items were placed on the consent agenda in terms of the contract.
All right, any questions for staff? All right, hearing none, I'll offer up a motion to approve scheduling reservations at the New Rowan Community Event Center as of April 1st, 2025. That's not an April 1st.
No, it's not in April Fool's Day.
As well as making April 1st the effective date for the new fees for the Cardinal Room, formerly JCPenney, and the new event center. Any current rentals booked at the Cardinal Room will honor the previous fee amount. Make that in the form of a motion. We have a
Second.
All right, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then also I'll make a motion to approve a giveaway, one free rental at the Rowan County Event Center for door prize drawing, the grand opening on Saturday, March 29th. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Anything else? Looks great, guys. Community, I hope you get a chance to get out there soon and take a look at it. You're going to love it.
Thank y'all for doing such a good job, Megan
Absolutely.
and Nick.
You can give him credit. He's helped. Thank you so much, Board.
Thank you, guys. All right, Pamela. There she is. How are you, Pamela? Welcome.
Good afternoon. We had a family come in and apply for a zoning permit in the 1300 block of Rockwell Road, which is shown in this first picture. It was the contractor for Stephanie Jackson. She just recently acquired this plot of land. So as we looked at that and planned, we noticed that we already had two addresses and they were sharing this driveway together. So we informed the contractor that that road, the driveway would have to be named before we could issue a third address. Family brought in an application. Everybody that has an address change signed the application. There were 3 names on that application. They were presented to GIS and to the 911 emergency services. Their number 3 choice, Misery Way, was approved. We notified the public with notice of hearing, as well as posting signs in our usual fashion. We did have one neighbor with some concerns. It's not an address change. It had more to do with right-of-way. And in talking to the requester, we were determined that this driveway is going to follow the easement rather than cutting through this gentleman's driveway. So that was the family's decision to do that. Today, we just want to hold a public hearing for the naming of the Misery Way.
The family here,
I don't think so.
do you have any insight as to Misery Way?
So,
Stephen King.
Yeah.
it could be a Stephen King fan. It could be a lot of fans. It could be, I guess the name, my maiden name's Crook. You know, nobody'd want to live on Crook Road, but I would. So I think
But-
everybody has a right to live.
But
Oh.
you've paid your debt to society.
I'm just saying, you know. But it was actually found, people have a hard time coming up with road names since we can't repeat names. If you have a Jones Drive, you can't have a Jones Road Street, anything. So I did come up about a year ago with a list of names that were just generated from AI all around. Sent them just to be vetted, not approved, and those are on the internet. And just so happens, Misery Way was one of those. And I guess they liked it.
All right.
So the family suggested this name, is what you're saying to us.
Correct. They had 3 suggestions, a
Okay.
number 1, a number 2, number 3. Number 1 and 2 were not allowed based on rules that we have to abide by. Misery Way was the 3rd submitted name.
Well, we will open a public hearing now. And here is a chance for you, if you would like to speak on Misery Way. Here's a good opportunity. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve this street as Misery Way?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, Ed, welcome. We've got ZO 2-25 legislative hearing for Rockwell ETJ. Rescission. We don't see this much, do we?
Yeah, we transitioned from misery to rescission, and ultimately for these folks, the Hamilton family, it's freedom. Freedom to be in the county. How about that? Congratulations, by the way. I'm Ed Muir. I'm the Rowan County Planning Director. I'm sure that we'll be seeing more of you. We take up an inordinate amount of time and resources for this commission, but we really appreciate what they do. They're part of our legislative and land use policy process. So with that being said, we've got a legislative hearing scheduled for today for ZO 225. It's a request to apply Rowan County zoning to a portion of tax map 361, parcel 1, which is outlined here in red on the western side of Rockwell zoning jurisdiction. I think most of this board is familiar with the concept of an ETJ, but what an ETJ is that each municipality in the county, with the exception of the town of Landis, has zoning and subdivision control 1 mile outside their corporate limits. So you're not necessarily a citizen of that particular municipality, but you still have to get a zoning permit or approval from them to do something on your property. In this particular case, we've had 6 previous rescissions since 1998 when the county adopted zoning. The most recent one was in 2023 when we took, or were given, as it was, about 258 properties from the town of Granite Quarry. And in this particular case, the Hamilton family owns this tract that's outlined in blue. You saw the general location earlier. But in November of 24, they approached the town of Rockwell and asked if the portion, about 52.5 acres that's in Rockwell zoning jurisdiction, could be relinquished to Rowan County, and that's this rose-colored area there. The property is located at the end of Cornelius Road, which is a state road. The tract is just over 130 acres. And you see that Rowan County has jurisdiction over 78 acres of it. Interestingly, the division, as it was in the previous or the current ETJ, didn't really follow a property line, didn't follow a natural feature, it just bisected the property. And so they had some concerns about the way the regulations fell to them on their property, so they approached the town. This is what it looks like now. The town of Rockwell took action on January 13th of this year to rescind their zoning over that piece of property, which it is enrolled in the present use value system, or what's frequently termed ag use or farm use. So some of it is in a farming program. The town zoning will remain in effect until the county adopts zoning for 60 days from the date of their legislative action. We're within that 60-day window at this time, and I assume that the board will approve this request as it is today. Just going through the motions, we look at the land use plan. You see here this excerpt of the land use map for the eastern portion of Rowan County. This red dot indicates the approximate location. Area 2 recommendations for something like this, there are really none. It's not really a rezoning. It's not really a use. It's kind of a jurisdiction cleanup. But the areas in Area 2 are defined as along or around our municipalities, and that is the case. It borders Rockwell. When we look at a comparison between Rockwell's, what they term residential agriculture, and what Rowan County calls rural agriculture, these district titles are very similar. When you look at the way the districts are defined, Rockwell's zoning ordinance says there are large tracts of vacant land. We say it's outlying areas of the county. Rockwell says they're a mix of residential and light commercial development. And we say the area contains rural single-family housing, and instances of non-residential uses are intermingled. They also say that there are some commercial uses that are allowed by special use permit. Rowan County says basically the same thing. When we talk about compatibility of uses, how will it affect the Hamilton family if they want to develop the property? There's very similar uses in the range of permitted uses. I would skip down to the very bottom of this slide and tell you that the single-family residence and the accessory structures on the property would be considered conforming uses on the property if it is taken into the county's jurisdiction. Talked with the Hamiltons about their desires for the property, none of which they proposed development seems to present a problem for them. You saw this slide earlier. I mentioned previously that the property is located at the end of Cornelius Road, which is off of Red Road, coming off of 52. Just north of the property, there's 3 different tracts that are in the present use value system. Again, that's the farming category. West of the site, there are 3 tracts as well. And then there's 8 tracts that border it on the southern side. And then on the east toward the town, there's a Cornelius Farms second phase of a subdivision that's been developed. It's got 44 single-family homes there. So everything around there is generally residential in nature, or it's going to be in the sort of ag use category. I would tell you that the notifications have been properly served. Sign was posted prior to the planning board meeting, and it's still intact. We mailed notices of this legislative hearing on the 21st of February. We also advertised in the Salisbury Post on the 20th and the 27th of this hearing. And then you've got your typical worksheet. The board comes up with a statement as to whether or not the proposed zoning change is consistent and reasonable with any adopted plan or policy. And the planning board is your resource to help you out. And they came up with this statement here that's imposed there up above. I'll be glad to answer any questions. If you don't have any questions, you know that you would open the hearing, close the hearing, adopt the statement, and then adopt the ZO 225 request.
All right, any questions for Ed? Ed, don't go far. All right, we will open the floor now. We're going to have a legislative hearing. If anyone would like to speak on this rescission, this would be the time to do that. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. We have some statements of reasonableness and consistency. I'll offer these. Someone else wants to read them. All right. ZO 2-25 is consistent with the East Rowan Area 2 Land Use Plan and reasonable and appropriate based on the following. Request will adjust the zoning district to follow property lines rather than dividing the property. Request will change the zoning district to RA, which is similar to the town of Rockwell's current RA zoning. There were no concerns or complaints voiced in any of the surrounding property owners. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 All right, then do we have a motion then to approve Z02-25?
Move.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Ed, thank you. Vaya, welcome. Familiar face. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thanks for having me. We've got a short presentation for you today, but the computer doesn't seem to want to work for me. Thank you, sir. Okay. I'm not the most tech-savvy person. I apologize. So before I get into my presentation, I did just want to mention an event we had last week at the Civic Center, which was a mobile-free pharmacy event, which Vaya sponsored along with our friends at Novant Health. It was a great event. We had a great turnout. And I just want to say thanks to everybody that volunteered and helped out with that. We hope to be able to bring that back to Rowan County again in the future. Okay, so I'll give a few brief Medicaid updates. So Vaya Total Care, as I've stated before, is our tailored plan name that we operate. As a tailored plan, that makes us responsible for physical health, behavioral health, and pharmacy for adult and youth. These plan members have been diagnosed with a moderate to severe mental health or substance use disorder, or have an intellectual and developmental disability. Vaya's network of providers includes hospitals, health systems, FQHCs, health departments, primary and specialty care practices, behavioral health, residential, and community providers, and pharmacies across the state. Plan members can also receive a tailored care manager to help them connect with services and supports. Also, with Vaya Total Care, that plan also comes with some perks for plan members. Those perks are designed to support members in a variety of different facets in their health and well-being. Perks for eligible members can include wellness, pregnancy, GED, safety, and non-medical transportation supports. Non-emergency Medicaid transportation for physical and behavioral health appointments. And then we also have a Healthy Opportunities pilot that can provide supports for other things such as housing, food, transportation, and members experiencing interpersonal violence. Also, the Child and Family Specialty Plan, the Department of Health and Human Services has announced that Blue Cross Blue Shield will be the plan that is covering youth and families involved in child welfare and in the foster care system. And there's some effective dates and timetables there that I won't go through. The planned implementation date of the Child and Family Specialty Plan is December 1st, 2025. And so far, we've not heard anything different, but so far that is the expected date that they will start. Wanted to touch just briefly on some Hurricane Helene recovery work that we've been doing. As I'm sure you all are well aware, there was absolute destruction and devastation throughout a large swath of Vaya's catchment area with Hurricane Helene. We've really made it a mission at Vaya to step in and do what we can to help support the recovery efforts. And one of those things is a grant called the Hope for NC grant, which we will be administering. It is a crisis counseling assistance program, and this is funded through Department of Homeland Security and FEMA. This is direct support for those affected by the storm. And these folks, these staff members will be going out and working directly with folks, making sure that they have all the support that they need through mitigating stress, working with emotional support, and linking individuals with other agencies that help survivors in their recovery process. Here's a map of the affected counties, and those are all Vaya counties. Some good news that I wanted to promote and share. As the board well knows, we've been working for some time to get our behavioral health urgent care facility up and running here in Rowan County. I'm proud to say that we are really close to that opening. I want to thank the board for their support in helping us get that done and working with our partners to ensure that the folks of Rowan County have direct crisis supports that they need. Ribbon cutting ceremony is March the 26th at 10 a.m. And the facility is located in the Daymark building, and that is at 2129 Statesville Boulevard. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Will you go back one slide so I can capture that?
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Judy, anything from you? Any questions?
Would you tell us again what support you're supplying to Western North Carolina with all the havoc that they've had?
We've been doing a variety of things, Commissioner. The Hope for NC grant is just one specific thing. It's one specific program that we'll be bringing to the affected counties. It employs a number of peer support specialists who are people with lived experience in behavioral health needs. And they'll be going out working directly with those folks affected to make sure that they get the services and supports and that they get linked up to the support that they need.
And who provides those names? Does that come from the health department?
No, that's a good question. And I'm not really sure how we select those folks. I'll have to get back to you on that. Not really sure what that process is.
Jim, are you talking about the board? What was your question? I'm sorry.
No, my question was the people that have emotional problems
yeah.
from this, how do their names get to somebody where they can help?
Well,
I'd just like to know,
yeah.
if, you're touting what y'all are doing. I'd like to know exactly what you're doing. Those people need all the help they can get.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I can answer that question. Vaya is plugged into all of our county social services, many times, in public health too. But county commissioners, county manager. So it's a variety of people that are in government and in the public sector that use Vaya as a care tool, all the way around, not just in emergencies like this.
So you're saying it's not the general public, but it is people that are covered in some way by Vaya.
I think it's anybody that lives in the county that's in their catchment area can go
so
and get
anybody in the
service.
county can get service. Okay. No. Yeah.
He wants to know.
How you're coordinating it, how you're getting names, how people know that they can get help. That's what I'm trying to find out.
With our Hope for NC grant, with that particular program or in general? Hurricane relief stuff?
Yep,
Yep. I can follow back up with you on that and find out the exact process.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Alyssa. Mrs. Harris, how are you?
She's not a Harris anymore, is
Yeah.
she?
Well, good
Welcome.
afternoon, board. I am excited to be here with you. Not excited, but happy to be here to share some information. I'll say my grandmother is in the audience. I think it's making me a little nervous. It's lovely to have her here.
That was your sister.
All right. Well, one of the roles, here, let me take this down. I have a brief statement for you all. So one of the roles of the local health department is to continuously monitor illnesses and any unusual activity in the community. So today I'm here to provide that information to you all as local health officials for you to share with your spheres of influence and to share information with the public to promote good health. So I'm passionate about Rowan County citizens staying healthy to live their lives to the fullest. This flu season is considered a high severity flu season, which is our first since 2017, meaning we are seeing more severe illness and death. And that is due to two strains that are most prevalent in flu A, H1N1 and H3N2, which are spreading more quickly and can cause more severe illness. So one of the strains, H3N2, does tend to mutate more. So as people have it, it's mutating, and that means that it can cause repeat illness at a higher frequency. So seasonal flu activity remains elevated, and it has throughout the winter. It has shown a slow decrease over the last 2 weeks. The data to date suggests that the season has peaked, which is good news, but we are seeing flu-related medical visits, hospitalizations, and deaths remain elevated. And we are expecting several more weeks of flu activity across the state and locally. And so here we have been tracking illness. Well, we've been tracking deaths, illness with our emergency department, and outbreaks. So communicable disease tracks outbreaks. And we have had 2 outbreaks in 2 nursing facilities, which always has me worried as those are one of our most vulnerable populations. I've been in communication with Novant Health Rowan's leadership over the last 2 weeks, and the emergency department has had a very high census of flu patients, or ILI, which is influenza-like illness, with longer than normal wait times. So we are hoping to see those wait times decrease as flu activity declines. But obviously, if there is a high wait time, that could hinder some activity for severe emergencies as they go to the emergency department. So locally, what has concerned me and what I've been in communication with our Board of Health Chair about is just seeing an increased deaths from flu among our citizens. In 2024 and 2023, we had 2 deaths each. In 2022, we had 1 death from flu. And since the beginning of February, we've had 7 deaths from the influenza A. And these are in ages ranging from 35 to 85. As I look at deaths, we receive death certificates. We look at those vital statistics. We have no say in those death certificates. We just receive them and can provide an analysis of them. What we found were some comorbidities, so some chronic illnesses like COPD, asthma, others like diabetes, present cardiovascular disease, and substance use. So these are things that are pretty prevalent in our community as is. Things that we would not otherwise think that would lead to the death of an individual if they had not contracted the flu. We also saw that none were vaccinated. Flu and pneumonia together are Rowan County's 7th leading cause of death. So I am concerned about our adults, especially those aged 35 to 65, dying of the flu. And so that's what we were seeing as I started getting those younger numbers in, younger ages. It really concerned me. So flu causes a systemic inflammation response, which does exacerbate those chronic conditions. So diseases, things like heart disease, plaque buildup, or high cholesterol, leading to the destabilization of those plaques, blood clots that can lead to stroke or other cerebrovascular events. So regardless of whether or not getting the flu may mean death for those citizens, it could also mean just long-term poor health for our citizens. So this flu season is expected to be lagging. We're about to see it for a lot longer than we normally do. So my recommendation as health director is still getting vaccinated if you have not. The decision to get vaccinated is a personal and medical one. We know that interim estimates from the CDC that were released this week, the flu vaccine was found to reduce severe illness and hospitalization by up to 78% for children and 55% for adults. So vaccines contribute to community immunity, protecting those who are unable to be vaccinated due to medical reasons. The other thing I want to say is encourage our citizens to be healthy. So get active, eat healthy, get good sleep, find connection and community or with your fellow citizens. All of those things will also protect your health and also boost your immunity to get you feeling healthy faster. We want to encourage people to practice increased respiratory hygiene, wash your hands frequently, stay home when you're sick, and not just those 24 hours after a fever. If you're not feeling well, stay home. That's all we ask. And just be cautious around those who are vulnerable. So that is the flu update for this season. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions. All right. Thank you very much.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
All right. Welcome.
The next victim, and probably the reason why most of your staff is in attendance today. So let me see if I can get this to work. I'll tell you who I am and why I'm here. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. And I'm going to talk to you about a compensation study that was done on behalf of 3 departments within the county. That was Animal Services, Emergency Services, and the Sheriff's Department. So I'm Dr. Victoria McGrath. I'm CEO of McGrath Human Resources Group. We're a group that was founded in the year 2000, so we're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. So this is not our first compensation study by any stretch of the imagination. Currently, over the 25 years, we have over 600 clients, and we work in 41 different states at this point in time. There is 2 companies. McGrath Consulting Group, Inc. is the parent company, and that does public safety consulting. So we do police, fire, EMS, and dispatch from the county level on down. And then we broke off in 2012 to McGrath Human Resources Group because people thought we only did police, fire, EMS, and dispatch. And we don't. We do compensation studies, human resource consulting for all departments from the county level down. We do have a couple of state clients, but we like to stick to local government first. So when it comes to the departments that are under the study today, we have a vast preponderance of work in public safety. Plus, I also have resources on that side of the business in case we have any issues or concerns regarding public safety positions. Not that I want to get everybody mad, but the person who heads that up is the other Dr. McGrath, and he's a retired fire chief. So hopefully law enforcement won't hold that against me. So we had a purpose for this study is a couple things. Number one was to obviously understand the positions that are within those 3 departments, to gather market data for these positions to see if they are continue to be competitive with the external market, and then make some recommendations with your current compensation system. We were not asked to change anything about your current compensation system, but basically look at, are you still competitive? In the process, we found a couple of different areas that we also want to look at in the way of how your compensation system is structured. And then another issue that is definitely a concern is how people move through that salary range. So we've added that to the scope of the study. To do that, we had interviews with administration and with the 3 departments. Most of the positions are pretty clear cut as to what they are, but obviously sometimes we have a job title, and that job title may mean something to us, but it may not necessarily be what you're using here within the county. So we made sure that we understood what those positions were. We looked at your current compensation system, job descriptions, policies regarding your current system. And then we did solicit data from the public sector, because obviously most of these positions are public sector based. We did collect a number of data points, but we are really going to be concentrating only on one data point, and that's the minimum of the salary schedule. We also looked at different compensation structures through the comparable organizations, because one of the things the county challenged on, and what we made an issue with, was, you know, your structure itself. And you've got a very large salary structure. And so the question is that common in this area, or is that anomaly? So we looked at the structure of the competitors and how they actually developed their salary structure. The other thing, obviously, I told you was range progression. And again, the question is, how are other municipalities moving employees through that salary range? So we gathered data on that as well. We did, we also were asked to look at benefits. I'm not going to talk about benefits at this point in time, but the HR department has been given information as to where you stack with benefits, time off policies, stipends, etc. Those are a little bit more longer term types of changes that you'll have to look at. Plus, we're not a benefits broker, so any type of recommendations will have to be run past your benefits broker to see if they can apply here with the county. Before I get into the meat of the presentation, I kind of want to take a step back and talk about what is an anatomy of a salary schedule. Sometimes people have some very different misconceptions about what a salary schedule is. And for every organization, a salary structure is basically the hierarchy of the organization. Doesn't mean that any of the positions are not important, but it's the hierarchy. And then it's the value that the organization places on those positions. And that's usually where we have a salary range. And the salary range means that we're not going to pay anything less than this, and we're not going to pay anything more than this. And so we're valuing the position as it relates to a number of different factors. A compensation system in and of itself does not evaluate its people. So you can have fantastic people, but that's not what the structure is. The structure is really looking at how much should we pay for a kennel attendant, and we're not going to pay anything like this and that. Then the question becomes, how do you move through that salary range? And that's kind of the big crux of the issue here, is how do we have it? We've got this range, and it says I can make up to this. How do I get to this? Or is getting to this kind of a carrot that you never get to achieve? And that can be kind of dishonest to employees. So what we did is we looked at these organizations. These came from talking with administration and talking with all of your department directors. And so we were able to get some data on most of the positions from everyone that's listed there. In addition to that, what we did is then we create an average. In this case, we created a true average, which means in typical compensation studies, we will eliminate any outliers, anything that's too high or too low, so that it doesn't skew the data. In this case, because of the concern that we might be skewing one way or the other, we just said, okay, we're going to come up with an average. So we came up with a true average. So we're going to talk about the market minimums, and that's because your current compensation system is built off the market minimum. So you will go out every year, you get what the average starting salary is, you look at that average, you look at that pay grade, and say, okay, from there, this is where that average is going to start. Mathematically, you have a formula that says we're going to go 60% out is your maximum, and then your midpoint is going to be mathematically what's in the middle. That's how your current structure is created, so therefore we are concentrating on the minimums. When you look at a typical compensation system, one of the things we typically will put in is somewhere in that salary range should be something called an average market rate. The average market rate means that within 4 to 7 years, I'm fully capable and competent of doing that job, and I should reach that number. In old-fashioned salary schedules, that used to be the midpoint. So in this case, I'm assuming it's your midpoint. In some cases, we have now built salary schedules where we skew that a little bit closer to the beginning because we really want people to get to that average market rate. We did not examine whether or not your midpoint is the average market rate because, again, we weren't making any changes to your current compensation schedule. Once we have the average market minimum, since I picked on a shelter attendant, we're then going to look at your salary range and say, okay, is it current or is it not? And we did that by developing an average, a percentage difference. So if the percentage difference between your minimum and the average market minimum was 5% or more, it was an indication that we should then maybe look at a different pay grade for that position. If it was more than that, then obviously it may not be need an adjustment. The county has used a 10% average in the past. I think 10% is too high, especially within this labor market, so we recommended the 5% difference. We did utilize the January 1st, 25 salary schedule because you did increase that salary schedule twice this year. You did it once in July and you did it in January, and so therefore we're working off the most current salary. So here are the numbers. Everybody's going to get their phone out. So basically, this is in order of percentage, and so this is for the positions that are in animal services. The minimum column is your starting salary. The market minimum is the average market minimum. I'm not going to go through all of these, but for example, the very first one is Animal Enforcement Officer 3. You start at $47,001. The average market rate starts at $38,009, which means the percentage is 21%, and therefore does not need to have any adjustment on your current salary. There are 4 positions at the bottom that do have 5% or more, and that is your veterinarian, your veterinary assistant tech, your shelter attendant, and the animal services director that do need to be looked at for pay grade changes within your current system, because the average market is now higher than what your current minimum is.
Ask a question. And your final recommendation goes back and it says what that increase is. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing, here's all of your EMS positions. There are 4 positions at the lower end: the battalion chief, the division chief, the captain, and the emergency services planner that are greater than 5% difference, and so therefore need to be looked at and what pay grades should they be at this point in time. And last but not least, we have the sheriff's office. We did the sheriff's office 2 ways because there are a number of individuals who receive a $2,600 stipend for being in patrol, and so we looked at it from with that stipend and without that stipend. So if we were to take out the stipend, the starting salary of $47,167 is below an acceptable starting range. We add that stipend into the minimum, if that becomes into an acceptable range. And we'll talk about that stipend as well. But as you can see, there are a few positions in this area that are looked at for changes in pay grades. We did look at the clerical staff. I'm not doing anything with the clerical staff, partly because I think we're only looking at a small microcosm of the staff. We're not looking at it from a county-wide position, and these positions are not just in these 3 departments. They're in a number of departments, and so I'm a little hesitant to make any type of changes just for these departments without looking at the impact of other positions within the county. Plus, they were all fine anyway. So, first thing we're going to talk about is the salary range. So as I said before, right now you have a 60% salary range from minimum to maximum. That's huge. And we don't build schedules that are 60% from minimum to maximum anymore. Typically we're looking between 40 to 45%. Sometimes we'll get up to 50%. The problem we have here is that when I look at your comparable salary schedules, they're all over the map. So we have salary schedules of your comparables that are only 41% from minimum to maximum, all the way up to 76% from minimum to maximum. If we look at the average is 60. So my original recommendation was to reduce that down to 40 to 45, make that end achievable. And of course the question is going to be, well then our maximum is going to look lower than everybody else's maximum. Well, if you can't get to it, what difference does it make? So one of the recommendations would be to look at that range in subsequent compensation studies, because it is large. It's just very difficult to get through that salary range. And like I said, you should be getting to that market point or that midpoint, which is now 30% from minimum. You should be getting there with between 4 to 7 years, and you're not. We'll talk about that in just a second. Right now, the county increases over the past couple of years. You have not done this consistently. I was given a history of how many times you look at the salary schedule. And over the past several years, you've been increasing that salary schedule twice. You do it on July 1 and you do it on January 1. Again, that's a pretty atypical process. Most of the time, salary schedules are only adjusted annually. And when we looked at all of your comps, all of them do adjust them annually. The city of Charlotte, however, on a couple of occasions has done it twice. Hard to compare the city of Charlotte's schedule, however, because theirs is a completely different type of schedule in what they do. But so doing it twice a year means this. If I start at the beginning, July 1, that salary schedule goes up by 2%. I'm still at the beginning, right? Because it just went up 2%. January 1, that schedule goes up 2%. Well, where am I now? I'm still at the beginning because I haven't moved through that salary schedule. I am just being lifted with whatever percentage that salary schedule is. You do need to look at an annual adjustment of that salary schedule, however, because you've got to look at the health of that salary schedule. If you stop increasing that salary schedule, then that minimum is going to continually get lower and lower and lower behind market. And what are you doing? You're starting people higher within that salary. So you do need to have a component where you annually look at that schedule. Here's your big problem. You've got something called longevity. So people move through that schedule based upon their years in the position. It's not merit-based, so if somebody is a rock star, they're going to be getting the same amount of money that somebody that may not be a rock star. And it's very minimal. So my first 4 years, I get 0.5%. So remember July 1, I went up 2%. January 1, I went up 2%. And then at some point in time, I'm going to get 0.5% tick to get me into that schedule. You're never going to get there at 0.5%. Then I go from 1% from 5 years to 9 years, 1.5% from 9 to 14, and I first reached 2% in my 15th year of service. So you're barely moving through that salary schedule. Now, with that being said, I thought I would find a lot more in-range compression issues, but I didn't. What that means is that people have been here a long time and they're still at the bottom of the range. And that's partly because the county has made some efforts over the past couple of years to move people with longer tenure within that schedule. Doesn't mean it's fixed. There's still some issues, but that's something you're going to have to look at. So I did go out and I looked at the hiring or the retention practices of about 15 of your comps. And most of them have an annual salary range adjustment that everybody receives except for 1 or 2. The second thing they have is they call it merit, a retention bonus, a progression bonus, or whatever it is, and that can range anywhere from 0 to 6%. So and average is probably about 3%. So not only am I getting that schedule adjustment, I'm getting an additional 3% to move through that salary schedule, which means that your folks are continually falling behind. Because if I'm getting this, and I'm over here, and I in China Grove, and I get 3.5%, and here you're only getting 0.5%, they're progressing through that salary range a little bit faster. With that said, almost everybody I contacted is saying they're having problems with range progression. People are not moving through those ranges. And so one instituted a brand new retention increase of 3%. One just increased, is implementing in 2025 a merit increase from 2 to 5%. So everybody is recognizing that to retain people, we need to get them moving through that salary range. So recommendations. Number one is move to an annual increase. So whether that's July 1 or January 1, we'll talk about that in a minute. Make sure you still have that increase and make sure everybody still receives that increase so that they don't lose their position within that salary range. I'm suggesting you add a progression increase. Whether you would call it a progression increase, whether you call it a retention increase, something, if we look at the range, it's been 1 to 5%, with everybody having about a 3%. So I think for the next couple of years, you're going to need to look at least a 3% progression increase to get folks moving through that salary range. The county would like to keep its current longevity increase. That's the 0.5%, 1%, 1.5%. And that's fine because, again, most of the organizations have a separate longevity plan. Those longevity plans are rewarding people's tenure within the organization. They range from a flat dollar amount to a percentage. So by keeping that longevity increase, it's a little bit less than what some of your comps are doing, but again, we'll keep you even with your comps. I think you can eliminate the $2,600 stipend. I'm not sure. It looks like people who work a different shift, 85.5 hours, get it. Those that work 80 hours don't get it. So those people that are getting it, build that into their base and then place them on the schedule accordingly. And we also used that 2,600 as part of where the minimum should be.
So when you say eliminate the 2,600, are you saying that the employees will lose $2,600 a year, or it just will be included in their base pay?
Yeah, add it to the base pay and then place them on the salary.
So the employee's pay wouldn't change,
No.
wouldn't go down, it's just it wouldn't be in the form of a...
Correct. It would be now as part of their base pay, so all their future increases would now be a part of that. So a higher base. And I don't think, there's a number of people that don't get it. I'm not recommending that those that don't get it, because they don't have it, so they're not losing anything. But those that definitely have gotten the 2,600, again, add that into their base salary and then place them either to the minimum, or it will now place them higher within that salary range. These are all the, it's a big print, isn't it? These are all the position placements. Not all of these were listed on the charts that I showed you, in that they needed to have changes based upon the market, but market is usually only one factor in placing a position. So as you're going to see here, that the deputy positions in the detention and in the patrol are being moved up a pay grade. That's automatically going to cause a domino effect, because I'm now putting them in the same pay grade as the corporal. That probably is not going to sit very well, which means you're going to have to move the corporal up, and then obviously you're going to have to look to see if the other ranks above it, is there enough distance between those ranks to make sure that I'm going to take that promotion and it's going to be worthwhile. So not all of these are directly due to market, but also internal equity and making sure that what's the compression look like within that salary. I've been told you want to look at a July 1 implementation. I'm not sure why they did that. So obviously, July 1, if this goes on July 1, you're going to need to look at what should the salary schedule look like for your 25-26 year. So increase that salary schedule by some sort of economic factor. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what that should be right now. My crystal ball is pretty foggy on what the economy is doing. And so hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll have a better idea of what that should look like. The schedules we're building now in 2024 or updating in 2024, we're looking at anywhere from 2 to 4% to be added to the schedule depending upon the geographical area. So the other thing, July 1, for those folks that are receiving that $2,600, adding it to their base salary. If that places below the minimum of the new pay grade, making sure that they also get moved up to the minimum. If they're within that pay range, there's really nothing more you need to do with them, at least for this purpose. Because we had a number of pay grade changes, one of the things you're going to have to look at on July 1 is for any of the positions that had a pay grade change, are they now at least at the minimum of that new pay grade? So placing folks to that pay rate. There's some conversation that when you do a compensation study, everybody should get increases. That typically doesn't happen. You're taking care of the folks that are out of alignment with the position. And so you're not all of a sudden just automatically giving everybody something, but you're taking care of making sure that they're within that salary range. Now, the county has had conversations with me. They're looking at maybe July 1, the progression increase. So the salary schedule would increase July 1. You would also get the progression increase. My personal opinion is I think you should separate those. Have the salary schedule increase on July 1, have your progression increase on January 1. People can see the two increases then. They can see I'm getting this increase because of the schedule. They can see I'm getting this increase because of my retention within the organization. The other thing that we did is you still do have some in-range compression problems, which means there are some people that have been here a very long time that still haven't reached the midpoint of that salary schedule. And if I was an employee and I've been here for 20-some years and I'm not even at the midpoint, I'm kind of wondering, am I ever going to get to the maximum? So we did a very simple formula. We looked at their years in the position, not their years of service. So I could have been in the county for quite a while, but I just got promoted to this position and I've only been in this position for 2 years or 5 years or whatnot. Some people, that's the same number. So if they had 1 or 2 years in the position, there was no adjustment. If they had 3 to 4 years, I moved them to the first quartile. What I did was I took your salary range. You've got a minimum, a midpoint, and a maximum. I went between the minimum and the midpoint, cut it in half. Went between the midpoint and the maximum, cut it in half, and said, okay, you should be at that first quartile if you have 3 to 4 years of service. If I have 5 to 8, I should be at the midpoint. And if I have 8 or plus more years, I should be at the third quartile. And there are a number of folks that would get adjustments based upon that. So if you're going to do this all July 1, I would increase the salary schedule. I would do, if you want to do the progression increase, you do that. You make sure people at the minimum. And then we'd have to kind of rerun this to see if anybody needs to be added to this list or taken off this list, because with those increases, I now am okay within that salary range. The longevity increase, I suggest January 1. If you want to do everything on July 1, that's your choice. It's really up to you from a fiscal perspective. Again, like I said, I like chopping them up so people can see those multiple increases going forward. So with that, I'm going to stop talking now and answer any questions you might have. Exciting stuff.
Does this, we've been here 11 years.
Excuse me?
You started when you were 10. Child prodigy, very good.
So we've gone through this several times. So you come in and we got a lot of fixing to do. Is this going to fix it long term, or are we just chasing the next bone?
You're chasing the next bone right now. So you are fixing these 3 departments, probably not to the full extent that they would like to see it, but definitely making inroads that those salary ranges are competitive, as well as moving those people through it. I really think you need to look at your entire compensation system, and take a hard look at it and go, is it really constructed the way it should be? There's not a lot of distance between some of those positions, and so, do we need to elongate that schedule a little bit more? Do we want to bite the bullet and drop down from 60%? So I think a rework of the whole system would kind of get your infrastructure in a better position to kind of keep you more long-term versus always chasing these pieces.
Does this happen because we meddle throughout time?
Yeah.
Jim and I are insurance guys. And so in North Carolina, they put out, it'll bore everybody, but I'm making a point. They'll put out an auto insurance policy for the whole state of North Carolina, the state does. And then the legislature starts adding little endorsements, little endorsements. So when you get your policy, you get your policy and 30 other sheets. And eventually, the state says, man, enough's enough. We got all these add-ons and takeaways. We're going to combine all those in a brand new, fresh policy. And so one time you get an envelope and it's a skinny policy instead of all these endorsements. Are we doing any of that? It seems like we're out of whack. So
I can't answer what some of your practices are, but I will say that departments, and I'm not sticking to just these three, but one in particular that is, we always chase, especially in public safety right now, we're all playing the domino game. You know, everybody increases their salary schedule, so everybody else around them says they have to do it, and then they have to do it, and they have to do it, and pretty soon we're pricing ourselves out of the market. I mean, that happened when I did Cabarrus. I mean, as soon as I did Cabarrus next door, they increased it, and then Cabarrus says, well, no, we're not going to be lower than them, and so they increased it, and so we're chasing dollars. And it's always, you know, we're always going to find somebody that pays more. That's why we have an average, right? And so if we start chasing the one who pays more, is that when we start breaking the system because we're changing these. The other thing you're doing is you're doing a third, a third, a third. And what happens with that is you're not addressing what might be happening in the market for the 2/3 that are not being looked at. And if you're going to do a third, and third, you might have to look at more job families. Like, for example, we can't separate our administrative staff into a third that just is being studied. We have to look at it throughout the entire organization. So if you can look at all of your positions on an annual basis and do more course corrections along the way, you're not going to get yourself that out of, I'll use the technical term, out of whack with the external market. So I think that's another issue you have. But you're always going to get a department director, I don't care who they are, that says, hey, we need to do this because now XYZ is paying more. Well, you know what? Every now and then they are going to pay more. The question is, what other things are you going to use to hook them in to your organization? Because even though the vast preponderance of what we do is compensation, compensation alone isn't what keeps people here. It's a good driving point, but you know, but it's not the only thing. So where are you with your benefits? Where are you with your time off?
I've had chairmen of other county commissions and other communities call and, what are y'all doing? Messing us up.
Mm-hmm.
Paying too much. You're doing this or that. In another department, we were having a big struggle that was really paralyzing a lot of our development process. So I explained to him, your problem isn't us. The problem is Greenville, South Carolina. He's stealing from Spartanburg. And then Rock Hill's stealing from them, and Gastonia's stealing from them, and Mecklenburg, and Cabarrus, and Rowan, and Davidson, and it's this ripple that we're getting, and we're going to do the best we can, and we're doing better financially than we were a while ago. But we're also sitting in between Winston, Greensboro, and Charlotte, and Cabarrus. I used to know what the difference in their budget was. It used to be $100 million. So we're getting these pressures from communities that are makes it tough on us. And we're the northernmost in the Charlotte region, the southernmost in the Piedmont, and so we get this squeeze that is there's a lot of pressure.
And part of it goes to what's your compensation philosophy. You know, right now, I'm assuming that your compensation philosophy is the average market rate. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I would say out of all 600 and some clients, the vast preponderance that are municipal pay at the average market rate. We are seeing some, predominantly more in the Kansas, Missouri area, that are saying we need to be more competitive than average. And we're looking at the 55th percentile or the 60th percentile. The the most expensive one I ever did was the city of Aspen, and they were at the 85th percentile. So, you know, you don't see that very often. So some of it can be, you know, do you still want to be average? You know, do we need to tick that up a little bit? At the same point in time, you folks are still stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And, you know, I'm assuming that you're like most organizations where, what, 70–80% of your budget is personnel. And, you know, it's a big ticket cost.
It seems to me that there's very little merit value in what you've given us today. And most of it is compensation based on years rather than the value of the individual to the unit, and takes away from the supervision aspect of it.
Well, your current system is not built on a merit-based system. So you're not at this point in time looking at the value of the individual and
Right.
their contributions.
But
So-
you're not suggesting that we change any of that to add any merit to it, which is what I assumed we were asking you to do, is to give us the best evaluation for retaining good employees and paying them as much as we can.
The goal was not to change your current compensation system. It was to look at the market and progression through your current system. So you are correct, sir. I did not recommend that. I think, however, before you walk down a merit type of increase, you need to look at some of the positives and negatives of merit, because merit always sounds really good because we can give people more money, but there also means that we give people less money as well. And so do you have the systems in place to properly evaluate individuals in order to make that determination? So I'm not against merit systems, but no, I was not asked to take a look at it. What I did look at was, just as we indicated, you know, if their years in position has not progressed them through your current salary schedule, what type of adjustments need to be made to those specific individuals.
One thing, putting pressure, I don't know anything about other counties. Certainly for us, with newfound interest in Rowan County from developers and companies and manufacturers and distributors, it's not just outside forces, but it's also these jobs we're talking about now were reliable, well-paying jobs, good benefits, and now Rowan County, again, I can't speak for others, but I would think they were probably in a better position than we were. Listen, we used to call ourselves the donut hole, right, Ed? Everything was happening around us, and our folks were working free $8.50 an hour jobs to make ends meet if they could. And so now, with well-known companies coming in and paying good wages, it's not just sheriff or police or firemen, teachers.
You are correct.
It is our DSS, it's health department, and we're finding ourselves, it's good news, bad news, right? Our folks are now finding jobs that help them prosper and give them health insurance and retirement and paid vacation, and all that's great, but folks that are public employees are going, hey, put up with whatever I put up with, you know, enter the blank there. And I can prosper in the private sector, and it's putting additional pressure. And the challenge for us is, when we had nothing going on, we had to be pretty aggressive with incentives, and that's where we get revenues to pay for these things, is through property taxes. It was a couple of years ago that we re-looked at our incentive policy and cut it in half, essentially, thinking that they would still come, and they are. So we're in this lag period of trying to get folks here. The jobs come immediately. The pay comes immediately. The county's benefit from a tax revenue standpoint is delayed a bit. until we work through the incentive period. But in the meantime, use the word carnage, that these problems arise, and we're trying to figure out now, hey, it's great news, but we've got to move through and figure out how to catch up, so to speak, on the pay scale, and it's a real challenge.
And I think by moving to an annual review of positions, that doesn't mean you do a compensation study every year, but every year you're looking at all the positions in here and saying, do we need to make any adjustments, with the cost of living? Has something happened in the market? Every 3 to 5 years, you do a mini compensation study to say, okay, maybe it's time that we increase the minimum and, push the salary schedule this way a little bit to do that. And if you make those corrections on a more frequent basis, you're not all of a sudden turning around and having to spend a lot of money on a consultant and then spend you a lot of money to fix it.
Well, a third was a good idea.
At the
because
time.
we weren't doing any of that, right? But now the market's moving so rapidly that a third.
That's right. You are behind. And even, if we even look at just what the inflationary rate is, I don't know any client that has been able to keep up with the inflationary rate. So you've got that doing. You've got a dwindling of the workforce. People don't want to do these jobs. It's hard, and we're building a lot of systems now where it's like, you got to grow your own. You're not going to have a PE engineer knocking at your door to come here. You have to start out with an engineering tech and grow them, and they can career ladder their way through. So you've got a couple of pressure points. You also have, I'm going to be very stereotypical here, the folks that you're bringing in new have a different mindset of a career. They're not going to be in government for a long time. I had one client last year called it, we're hiring the shiny object generation. And if I can get $2 more across the street for a totally different job, I'm going to go. I'm doing a study on the fire department for the city of Knoxville, and they're complaining about their turnover. And half their turnover is going to people, they're going to different jobs. But that's the trend in public safety. That's nothing unique to the city of Knoxville.
And it's going to pop in here. I had lunch with a 30-something from our county, and I said, what is all this jumping around? And he said, well, every time you move, you get a salary increase.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just move until they get to where they want to stay or where
And under
they're
your
at.
current system, you're going to get a much bigger increase if I move to a different job than I am here and get a 0.5%. That's my doom and gloom.
I just asked the board if they would consider the motion in the agenda packet that authorizes the manager to submit all or part of the pay study recommendations as a part of the 2026 proposed budget.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much,
All
and
right.
good luck.
Yeah, thanks and good luck. That's your parting, the best you got, right?
I am a consultant. I left my briefcase in the car, so that's what I. But again, as I've told both Aaron and Kelly, hopefully I'm not offending anybody here. I'm not an attorney, so phone calls are free, and I do have some updates on the salary placements to do because they found some errors in the data they provided me. So we'll still be working with you for a little while. So, thank you very much.
Very technical.
Thank you for the brief moment. I was hesitant to say anything, but I do want to just say really a good appreciative thank you. The board spent a lot of money, the county spent a lot of money looking into this, and I believe you were very serious about helping us with some issues that we have. I do look forward to talking to many of you in the next few days about what that looks like, but it is encouraging to see that it's a plan that affects our future as well as in the present. So I do look forward to speaking with each of you over the next few days about what that looks like. But thank you for putting in that effort. Just paying for this study, listening to this study, shows that you have a desire to take care of the issue, whether I like it or whether any other director likes it. Thank you for the look, the honest look into it. And I do look forward to the next few days of discussing some things with each of you. But I just want to take a moment to say thank you for putting the effort forth in doing that. For you as the Board of Commissioners, as well as Aaron's office, thank you for that. On behalf of Emergency Services, we appreciate the look. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff. All right, next item, noise ordinance discussion. Greg?
Yeah, that's some of my stuff. I don't know how many times you guys get phone calls, but I get inundated with people calling about noise. And it's only going to get worse with all the proliferation of these tract builders buying up farmland, building all these houses on top of each other. And I just think we need to be proactive and get in front of this. So I'd like to ask if we couldn't send this to the planning board and let them have some public hearings and get some direction on what we can do to strengthen our noise ordinance to make this a better place for people to live. I mean, I understand people doing fireworks on the 4th of July. That don't bother me. But when people are setting off dynamite in the middle of the damn night, this is ridiculous. Dynamite. Tannerite. Synthetic. And then I get, phone calls about people living on the lake and people out in the lake on a boat shooting a shotgun toward their house to try to kill ducks. I mean, some of this stuff is just inconsiderate, and I think if people's pride won't let them take care of our county, we need to. And I just want to do a study. I've talked to Ed Muir about it, and he suggested that the planning board get involved in it so that they can hash this out through the citizens and then let them make a recommendation to us on what we can do to strengthen our noise ordinance. Our noise ordinance has not changed in 25 years. The population of Rowan County has almost doubled. So it's obvious that with the lower cost of land, we're going to be continued to have builders and everybody else coming here to build it, and they need to understand that this is a farming community. It's a nice, quiet community, and I want to maintain that. And I don't think we're asking too much for people just to be good neighbors.
So we can set off Tannerite, just not after 12.
Not after 7.
Oh, 7.
When I eat, I want to go to bed.
They have to have so much beer before they start shooting.
Well, then you start at noon.
Oh, okay. I don't think there's been one thing. We got the dog situation under control. But noise has come up more times than I can count. And so trying to come up with a revised noise ordinance, I don't have a problem. As a matter of fact, I would recommend it if we could have some teeth in it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem.
You're ducking me. Is something I want to take on? I mean, it's a Pandora's box.
Well, Commissioner Pierce and I, sorry, jumping up, I hope I can speak. We have talked a couple different times about it, and I think right now we could bring some different departments to the table, talk about what their interest is, what they see, what they could do, what their limitations are, then maybe build from there. The primary issue, as you all know, is enforcement. And so we typically work 8 to 5, unless there's a meeting. We have gone out and looked at things when we know that they're a problem. They're continual. But the noise ordinance, by and large, as Commissioner Pierce said, has been resting at the sheriff's office. And it's tough. I think they like to give folks a break. And sometimes they don't get there right away. So there's a couple different things we're going to look at and talk about, and we'll bring back to you guys with a recommendation. Whether or not that goes through the public hearing process for the planning board, I would like to get some direction from you guys before we put them on it and get some feedback, just to see if that seems reasonable. that's the approach you guys want. I have the county attorney there too, but yeah, we'll start on it. One of the other things that he and I talked about was, does that fit within a land development code? And I told him, I said, you know, we're talking 2 years for that, but if you want this to be effective within the next, excuse me, 6 or 8 months, that's something that's gonna work itself out beforehand. And honestly, I would say it would be something that would be what's under a general police power ordinance. It's one of the statutes that allows counties to regulate noise specifically. And then you build from there, because if it falls within the zoning text, it's going to be that whole ATJ issue and things like that. So I think we're talking about taking the current ordinance that we've got and doing some modifications to it and having some standards proposals. Sounds like fines is an issue. Talk about teeth in the ordinance, so how that really works. And again, we've got some new faces in the county organization that we can bring to the table that may have some other opinions on how we could do this. So yeah, I think we can take a swing at it. Sound good? Yes. Any other questions?
Ed, I'll be more than happy to serve as a liaison with the planning board to give them some direction to kind of streamline the process. You need
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Financial report? Hey, y'all aren't allowed to leave. Except for the preacher. Preacher can leave.
All right. So we'll start with our annual cumulative expenditures. We are up 8.6 million over FY24 through January, or 8.5%, but still well within our budgeted numbers. And cumulative revenue through January, we're up 7.8%. 7.8 million, or 5.8%. Again, trending above FY24, so looking good still there. And this is property tax collections through December. So it was up 4 million over last December, or 4.4%. And cumulative sales tax is, I think, trending right where we expect it to be, according to our budget numbers. It looks low compared to FY24. It was because we had the error in FY24 where we got a large amount in October, and then they took it back in November. So you'll see on the next chart that it looks really wonky, but I think we're trending right where I would expect us to be at this time with our cumulative sales tax. Here's the month, so you can see the two extremes last year, but the purple is this year, and so it's up over FY23 and over what I think the average would have been of those two together that are extreme, the green lines. And then, so still watching that sales tax. Still,
But it was down the month before.
Yes, it was. But
So
it was
it's
back
not,
up.
this is not a let's go signal.
Correct. And these were October's numbers. So, hopefully as we get closer to getting those December numbers with, your Christmas spend and stuff, we'll see that it is still trending right where we kind of expect it to be.
You're about to go to the finance
I am,
investment report, but
yes.
will you go back
Absolutely.
to the general fund annual cumulative revenue comparison?
The big revenue one, like all of them.
Yeah,
This
and
one?
so your numbers 143 and 135, so that's roughly $8 million difference. We saw some of that in property tax comparison of about
Correct.
$4 million.
Yes.
But our sales tax is down. Where's the rest of the four? Where's the other
Okay,
four?
I'll look into that and bring that back next meeting, because I'll have this particular financial report. I wasn't here last meeting, so this should have been then. So you will have another financial report next meeting, and I'll have that information for you then.
I just want to know where that
Yeah, okay,
extra's coming from. Is that dependable? Is it one-time money? Is
right.
So we see what the trend is.
Yes, absolutely. All
All
right.
right. Go ahead.
And then on the investment reports, this is our quarterly investment report. And so I think the main things to point out here are through December 31st, we had received, since January through December, we received $6.6 million in interest with all of the, between our bank accounts and our investments and treasuries and agencies. As you can see on this report, the weighted average for the yield, they're getting closer together. So that NCCMT was much higher. And so that's why we were keeping such a large amount there. With the payment of January property taxes that came in, that investment number in agencies and treasuries, we did some more investing of that money in some of those because the rates were very similar to NCCMT, trying to ladder some stuff out. So the next investment report, you'll see that $35 million will be higher, because that's pretty low for what we would normally have in investments and treasuries. But it was intentionally done that way because we were gaining so much at the Capital Management Trust. Their interest rate was so high. So hopefully, overall though, I think our portfolio is in good shape. I mean, it's still a very crazy market. It's hard to know what to expect.
Would you just explain for our press and individuals that are here or might be listening that we are not investing in stocks and bonds
Correct.
that go up and down daily?
Correct.
And that this is controlled, what we can put this money into is controlled by the state of North Carolina?
Yes.
Yeah, it's crypto.
Yeah. And we are even being even more conservative in what the state allows us to do, because we're not doing any commercial paper at this time either. So we're strictly sticking with governmental treasuries and agencies, and so everything that we're investing outside of our normal savings account at the Capital Management Trust that's what it's in. That's also what the Capital Management Trust does. I don't believe they do any commercial paper either. So when they're investing our money, but yes, you're correct.
Thank you.
That's amazing. From July 1st, 2024, 6.6 million generated in.
I'm being, still pretty conservative with that number for next year's budget, because I don't know what these markets are going to do.
You're still on commission, is that correct?
No. I am not.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
Red flags?
Other than keeping an eye on the sales tax, I mean, that's the big concern, I think. I think you're gonna see some slowing because we don't have the inflation that we had. We still have inflation, but we don't have what was happening a couple of years ago. But and that's going to affect it. Overall, the state, the last report I got overall from the state was down, but we're trending still above kind of where we had been the last couple of years. Not much, but just slightly. So I think overall we're in good shape right now. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, have some board appointments that I'll go through. I'll pair a lot of these together. So let's start. Atwell Volunteer Fire Department, Steve Garver and Ryan Yost have applied for 2 county seats. East Gold Hill, they have 2 seats open, and Carter Trexler and Jonathan Ray Morgan have applied. Ellis Crossroad has Paul Raymond Curlett has applied for 1 open seat. Franklin Volunteer Fire Department, Jennifer Simmons Commission, Amanda Truel, appointed for an at-large seat to the Historic Landmarks Commission. And Liberty Volunteer Fire Department has an opening, and Linda Trexler applied for reappointment to the county seat. We have a motion to approve all of those.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Local Emergency Planning Committee Board. I'll read. What do you say, Jay? We need to read all of these, or can we just make a motion to accept those as presented? All right, do we have a motion to accept these all as presented?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Rowan Iredell Volunteer Fire Department Fire Commissioners. There's 3 county seats open. Carla Pinch, Linda Watts, and Patricia Watson have applied. On Scott's Irish Volunteer Fire Department Board, 2 seats open, and Michael Astrop and Ryan Thompson have applied. Scott's Irish, there's 3 county seats on their Volunteer Fire Department Commissioners. Bernie Davis, David Majors, and Ashley Sane have applied. Union Volunteer Fire Department, Rick Waller has applied for the county seat. Woodleaf Volunteer Fire Department, Joseph Gregory and Artie Watson has applied for 2 seats. Woodleaf Volunteer Fire Department, they have 2 seats open, and Adam Taylor and Kay Gregory have applied. Motion to accept all of those.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioners, I make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A1 to consider approval of the minutes of the closed session held on January 6, 2025, as described by North Carolina General Statute 143-318-10E and North Carolina General Statute 143-318-111. Prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential pursuant to the law of this state or the United States, or not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132, General Statutes as described in North Carolina General Statute 132-1.7A1. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we will enter closed session as soon as we clear the room. All right, motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have no action coming out of closed session. Commissioner Pierce.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.